and welcome to another edition of the Formula One Fans UK podcast. I'm Reese, and I'm joined today by
Dan
and Danny. I'm back.
The American is back. We did promise his return, and with that, he has bought the races in the Americas. And Danny, as you're back, what were your thoughts on the race?
Well, look, it's kind of like Miami. It's a city of all show, but really no substance. And that's what we got in this race. But all credit to Max. Yes, he did have the fastest car, but it does require a special ability to move up the grid and overtake and have anything go wrong. Did a great job. Yes, that car is a rocket, but damn, did good.
I'm going to say special ability or 20 kilometers an hour difference with DRS.
Yeah, that's just crazy. When he was overtaking, I think Russell, I think Gasly, it's very heartbreaking, I guess, in a way to say. Very heartbreaking to see if you're a Russell fan or a Mercedes fan.
It's heartbreaking if you're a fan of close racing at the front as well. Dan, coming over to you. How hungry are you right now waiting for your Chinese?
I'm absolutely starving. I would rather rewatch the race than wait any longer for my food. But it wasn't a bad race up until lap 18, and then it was boring. And my highlight for the race is probably Max deciding to just overtake two cars at the same time and just breeze past. That was some next level overtaking, that one.
It was a ridiculous overtake. It was almost like the other two, like they almost weren't on the gas. They were just passed by just like that on what was the shortest DRS zone on the track. It just shows you that Red Bull have just worked wonders with that system this year.
But they were in a fight themselves, and Max just like, oh, slipstream, see you later. And they were probably sat in the car like, what the fuck? We were literally battling, and then Max comes out of nowhere and takes both our places. Literally, I know we spoke about this before, about getting robbed in Miami, but they were robbed, bro. Straight up.
It was daylight robbery for anyone who wasn't in a Red Bull. You just didn't have any chance to stop it. It was like being mugged, I guess. You were powerless to stop it and completely caught by a surprise.
But I think you said it earlier. The big problem right now with F1, and this race highlighted it, is the fighting at the front. We want to see those battling, the first and second place battling for the lead. We want to see that last lap showdown. But we're not getting that. This is going on more. This has been over 2 seasons already. Yeah, we had the great battle of 2021, but that's now 2 seasons ago. And before that, we had the Hamilton dominance, and people were getting tired of Mercedes, especially in 2020. Went first and second every race. I think the first 6 races, and it looks like Red Bull's going to head to the same way. We want to see fighting. We want to see fighting at the front. Miami isn't that bad of a track, except for the second sector, which I think is very Mickey Mouse Formula E kind of track. The first and second sectors are pretty good. I like how the third and the first, how you come out of the long straightaway, and then you have those high-speed winding turns up to Main Straight, up to turn 1. I like that section. That section's pretty cool. We saw some good racing from Magnussen there. Magnussen and Leclerc went at it several times, and great show. Definitely brought excitement to a very boring race.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Mickey Mouse Sector 2 either. The whole Miami's answer to the Singapore sling was not what anyone ever asked for, but it was a necessity to be able to go underneath the bridge.
Yeah, it's still not a great sector. Similar to Valencia, right? There's a section in Valencia that was similar to that.
Yeah, which Valencia
after turn 1, I think, right? I think after turn 1, I think it's like turn right, then left, and then another left, right. I don't know, it's just weird section there.
Over the bridge, Valencia also famed for being another not very good street circuit.
Great race. 2012 was a great race. Yeah.
The only time it was a good race, and then after that, I mean, after other than that one race in Valencia, the rest of them were awful, and it was just typical that when you announce that it's leaving the calendar, that's when it puts a good race on. But there is a real issue with racing at the front. My issue was that we were promised a battle, 3 laps to go, this will happen. It was very, very clear from everything this weekend that the hard tyre was the best race tyre. The medium would completely degrade, and the soft was not even an option for the race. So you got to question Red Bull. They put Verstappen on the hard tyre, which was the right call. And for someone starting in the midfield, it makes sense to do that. But they could have done the same with Perez. There's the argument of off the line, Perez would have lost a few meters. Yes. But if he gets beaten into turn 1 by Alonso or Sainz, say he falls behind both of those, what's stopping him waiting 2 laps, then with the 20-kilometre-an-hour difference of the DRS, just breezing right past them, being on the better race tyre and driving off into the distance?
That would be because Christian Horner's a dickhead, and he really doesn't care about Perez. All he cares about is kissing Max and his dad's ass. So that's probably why.
I was going to say the same thing. I guess the only person who would ask that question is Checo. Did he want to switch? Did he want a different option, or did he just listen to his engineers and went with that option? Brings very interesting.
Well, if his engineers thought that a medium tyre was the best way to go, knowing about how great the hard tyre was as a race tyre, his engineers need to find a different line of work.
No, but I'm sorry. Checo has done enough of these races to realise that he knew what Max's strategy was. Max qualified outside the top 10. Any driver that qualifies outside the top 10 that should be in the top 10 runs harder for longer, pits later, goes faster. He should have known that, and he should have adapted his strategy. He's either too scared to talk to Red Bull and say, that's what I want to do, or he generally thought that he was going to be on a better strategy, which is stupid, and he needs to have his head wobbled a little bit, because we all knew what was happening. Everybody could see it. It's really weird.
Yeah, the truth is, when you're in a 2-horse race, if you've got a 9-length head start, like Perez had, he had that 9-car head start on Verstappen, you just run what the other guy is running, and it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, because you've got that fastest car. I mean, Verstappen came from 9th to win. Anyone could have, done that. It leaves me a bit baffled, really, to think that he didn't go down that route, or he wasn't allowed to go down that route, or whatever happened. It just didn't make any sense to me. But we'll talk about where there was actually action. The midfield was tighter, and you could argue without Red Bull, maybe these regulations are working because everyone is running closer together, but at the same time, there is just a fundamental lack of overtaking. The DRS trains are doing my head in right now. There's got to be a better way of bringing in overtaking to Formula One. And there's all this talk of, as we were in America, a lot of the IndyCar drivers were piping up this weekend, in particular Marcus Ericsson, who went onto Twitter to say, forget about DRS, push to pass is where things should be. And there's this argument that it's artificial push to pass, but to me, it's no more artificial than having a slot that opens up in the rear wing when only in situational use.
I think with push to pass, what I like about it is you can use it when you feel like. With DRS, it's only in designated sectors if you're within so much of somebody. I'm not against push to pass. I actually enjoy it. To be fair, though, what I do enjoy the most is the little graphic of watching their little time go down. And I'm like, oh, that's shit, cool. Matt. He's only got 8 seconds left. What is he going to do?
Yeah, that's what I like about push to pass as well. I mean, Formula One sort of tried it in the past before with the KERS system. But the problem with KERS was you could only use it for 6 seconds a lap, and it was just 6 seconds a lap. So every driver, if they were in a battle, they would use it at that same point. Whereas push to pass, because it's a race-long thing, there is that strategic question of, do you use it a lot of it at the start to try and get track position? Or do you save it for the end, hoping that, especially with Formula One, the car having no refueling would be lighter and more effective for push to pass?
Well, Formula One currently has something very similar to the push to pass with their battery, energy battery pack that they have on their hybrid units. Yeah, Kurz was a good example and how F1 has evolved to that now. Look, Formula One is the best series racing. It has the best show. It's literally becoming a Super Bowl every race. I know Indy GP. I know the guys that in Indy they really want to bring these F1 drivers in. But understand some of them really like the glitz and the glamour that F1 provides, and the way they can express themselves in F1. They're both great series of racing. I like both. I can watch both on any given day, and they just both provide good entertainment right now.
Going back to your first point, it sort of doubles back onto what Kurz was though with the current use and using overtake, because you can only use it for so much of the lap. You only get so much energy you can deploy as a maximum per lap. And that's where I just feel like the push to pass system would be better in Formula One these days, because you're not limited on that use per lap, and you will have drivers coming in and using more of it. You know, or using too much of it at the start because they don't know the system. And it will give us this whole extra dynamic to the racing. And I'm sorry, DRS is just completely flawed now. One team has worked it out to a T, and everyone else is stuck in DRS trains. It's quite embarrassing, really, when you think this has been to improve the racing DRS, but all it's done is make it worse.
I do agree. Was it Baku at Baku? That was the last race where they shortened the DRS, right?
They did it here as well. They did it. They did it in Miami too.
Yeah, and I think in the last race, we had like the least amount of overtakes. That even the 2016 Bourfest, where Nico Rosberg won the race, even had more overtakes than this boring one of this past couple weeks ago. There has to be another system other than DRS. We do need better racing. We need to find a way of these drivers to maintain the gaps and stay close and pinned up behind somebody to get better.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be a better way of doing it. But going on to the second point you raised in your earlier comments, every race being like a Super Bowl, etc., and all these bits, and there is a bit more of a show to it. But could you think of anything worse to do before a driver is about to go around lapping at a couple of 100 kilometers an hour for the next 2 hours than having to have to do some pointless WWE style entrance with will.i.am and LL Cool J doing walk on music? And it was really, I mean, I found it completely pointless, a waste of time, a distraction to the drivers. I don't think I added anything to the show. I thought it was cheesy. It was embarrassing. I could go on with listing how many problems I thought there were with it. Danny?
Can I give my angry American rant on this one?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, it's not 2008. will.i.am, he's 2008 for me. That's old. Like, get somebody else there. LL Cool J as well. They tried this back in 2017, 18, I forget.
Kota.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. They tried that again, and I think the drivers didn't like it, and they go back and do it again. So it's just it's distracting. You can see in some of their faces, especially Max's face. It's just did not want to be there.
Yeah, there were some drivers who did not want to be there, or some other drivers who just didn't give a shit. I mean, you saw Lewis Hamilton; he just went out, milked the crowd, gave LL Cool J a hug, and then just walked off. And I mean, for some of them, they can just play it down because it doesn't bother them. Other ones, it is a real distraction. I wonder, does Nick De Vries have that incident with Lando Norris lap 1? I know we've given him some stick recently, De Vries, but I don't think if he's completely switched on, not having to stand there for 5-10 minutes whilst everyone else is announced, standing there next to a grid kid whilst an orchestra's playing, I reckon he's more in the zone. You look at these drivers, a lot of them do sit down with their headphones in, focusing because they know what's coming up.
I don't like the whole thing that we had with Kota with parading them out. Like, it is effectively like the shit they do with NASCAR. Like, I like it with NASCAR because I don't know, that's just what it is. But I agree. Like, we don't really need it in F1. Going back to will.i.am, couldn't give a toss about will.i.am, but LL Cool J is a legend. Man is a legend. Danny's doing this meh thing. I don't want to hear it, Danny. He's a legend.
He's a pop legend. He's more of a pop legend. Okay, I'll give that. He's a pop legend.
I don't know. I think as a driver, it's your responsibility to get this out the way quickly. Pop your headphones in, sit down, go to the side, and then you need to use your own time to get in the zone, which I think they did. As far as they're concerned, this is just a it's a warm up. I think a lot of them don't really care for it, but that's because they're not used to it. And if this becomes a every single event thing, then they're just gonna have to they're just gonna have to get used to it. It is what it is. I can't see it being an everyday thing, but with Liberty Media, you just never know. They could have us all racing opposite direction every 20 laps if they wanted.
All I'm going to say is that they're going to feature that probably on Drive to Survive, and Drive to Survive are going to make it out like everyone absolutely loved it and everyone went crazy for whichever driver they were featuring. Probably Logan Sargent because his first home race. But man, it just sucked. It was just a waste of time. I mean, the whole start procedure was completely, messed up. I mean, I nearly missed the grid walk because I didn't realize it was going to start so early because of this. But whilst I was talking about the grid walk, that was arguably the highlight of the race because Jackie Stewart, you talk about a legend, Dan. That's a legend. Can you go get Roger Federer for me, Jackie? No problem. Walks past bouncers, security guards. You can't stop Jackie Stewart on an F1 grid. You can't stop that man. He went over. He got Roger. Absolute hero.
I did think Jackie Stewart was going to start throwing hands at one point when the security guy stopped him. I'm like, we're about to see an angry little Scottishman go right off in a minute. Like he's just going to start kicking off and start throwing hands at people.
It just also showed that these people didn't know who Sir Jackie Stewart was. Some of these, obviously. You can't not know who that is if you claim to be an F1 fan. If you're more interested in LL Cool J reading out Yuki Tsunoda or claiming that Joe Granu is the next most exciting driver in Formula One.
Yeah.
I mean, it was embarrassing. This stuff was just being made up on the spot, it felt like. It's like, didn't know, like they hadn't done any background research into the drivers. It was just embarrassing.
No. Right. I think probably the script for this was written before Yuki Tsunoda drove a car. Maybe that's where they got the confusion. When we were all on the Yuki hype train.
His was the best, though. His introduction was the best. Yuki's was the best.
The thing is, I was half expecting, because it was such an American thing. I was expecting some very casual racism, which they usually do in America.
What could they have said?
I'm not going to say what they could have said, but I was just half expecting it.
Shit, Danny, I talk a lot of shit about everybody, and I'm staying away from that one, bro. I don't need that. No. Not today. Today.
But LL Cool J made a reference to his height. 90 or something. They call him short, which he is.
Yeah, they're just a reference to the height. But like I said, the Joe Granu one was really confusing. Hulkenberg aggressive driving. I've never had Hulkenberg down for aggressive driving, giving him the nickname of the Hulk. Dan's trying to show me the football. I can't see the football. His screen's way too bright. Are you trying to show me something important here, Dan?
No, that's what you're watching. Are you not watching football?
No. I'm just glancing up at Sky Sports News occasionally in case something breaks, like I always do. Either way, it's not important. All I'm going to say is my final point on these driver announcements was they were worse because the announcer was not the legendary Michael Booker. They will take a step back. That's all I'm saying. Yeah,
but they're trying to make it. I don't know. They're trying to make it relevant to the States, maybe, with like using LL Cool J and will.i.am. I know will.i.am was probably there to promote his new single and whatever, but
yeah, the formula that can stay away from Formula One. I've given that a listen. It's meant to be for the kids. I guess I'm not the kids anymore.
Mate, you're speaking like you're 50.
I'm not 50. That's the thing. It's like it's meant to be for people around my age group, and I just sat there. I was like, "What am I listening to? This is awful."
That's probably what people think when they listen to me talk on this podcast. What am I listening to? That's awful.
Can I get some driver quotes from that talked about the driver's introduction? We had Lando Norris say that none of the drivers liked it. Not for us at the end of the day. And then now Alex Albon was equally dismissive, saying it's the show. We're in the show business now. So yeah, just kind of negative dissonance about it. Even George Russell is distracting, he says, because we're on the grid for half an hour with in all of our overalls in the sun.
Yeah, you say it was distracting. It was pointless. But let's move on. For me, the biggest issue that we've already highlighted in this podcast is that there's no competition between Red Bull and the rest of the field. And the last two races, they've experimented with DRS, shortening the zones to try and reduce the advantage that it's having on Red Bull. It's not working because shortening the zones, Red Bull was still as effective. 20 kilometers an hour was huge difference. Over a shorter distance, it's still a huge difference compared to everyone else. And everyone else's DRS is less effective because of it than shortening these zones. So for me, I think if you're going to improve the racing, make life more difficult for Red Bull to come through the field, you don't shorten DRS zones, you don't extend them, you just get rid of DRS.
Yeah, we should get rid of DRS for just Red Bull, and then everyone else can have DRS.
No, seriously, Dan, get rid of DRS. Just no one has it. Because I tell you what, it's not going to be any worse than a DRS train being stuck behind without DRS.
Yeah, but Red Bull don't need DRS. This is the thing. Like, it's still going to be exactly the same as it is now, regardless of if you have DRS or not. Like, how many passes did Red Bull actually need DRS for? Like a handful at best. I just think, like you said, they're like 20 km up.
Yeah, that's with DRS. That's the difference they get on everyone else with DRS. Is an extra 20 kilometers an hour.
But realistically, right? I know I chat a lot of shit, but I don't think Red Bull need DRS to pass anybody.
No, they probably need it. For that, they probably need it still.
I mean, even if they don't, it would still, the DRS makes it so much easier for them to get past. If you took away the DRS, maybe they are having to lunge a bit more, be a bit more desperate. You know how it was when Hamilton and Rosberg were having to battle through the fields when they were taking their engine penalties in 2015, 2016. They had the fastest car, but the DRS difference was not that great. The Mercedes engine was a lot better than the Ferrari engine and the Renault engine at the time. And don't even get me started on Honda back then. But when they came to trying to overtake the Williams or the Force India, it did require, a bit of gritting your teeth, closing one eye, and hoping for the best when lunging down into the first corner or whatever you were going.
Yeah, I remember that, especially the Williams. Williams was really good in straights back then. It worked. Well, what about shortening the use of DRS instead of having DRS race long? You can only have it in the last 50% of the race. And the reason I say that because most of for example, you have a driver that starts in Max, for example, with ninth. It's a good example. He used DRS in all those overtakes, all those passes that he did. But what if he didn't have it? You're right. What if it took him longer to catch up to these guys? And we probably had a better race on our hands against Perez as well. And maybe Perez would have won, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's just Max's day. Especially in the crucial beginning where they don't have DRS available, I think it'd be a better idea.
Well, that's exactly it. If Max didn't have DRS and no one had DRS, if no one had DRS, Max should have had to have been braver because he knew that he would have known that Checo was going to leave him for dust. And Checo really could have got away with starting on the mediums back then because he would have had Verstappen trying to fight through the field, actually having to fight through the field rather than just, DRS is open, bye two cars at once. It feels like a gimmick. And I get what you're trying to say if you just limit the use of it. But the thing is, DRS is already situational. You have to be within the second of the car in front to be able to use it. If you're allowing everyone else to use it for 15% of the race, then cars are just going to use it to overtake, to defend as well, like was the issue with Kers and why Kers didn't work.
Right. Do we really need another year of a desperate Max lunging and driving dangerously because he doesn't have DRS? Right.
Anything's more entertaining than what we're dealing with at the moment. It's a case of, shall I fight him? Shall I try and, battle for position? Or maybe I might get second in the race? No, it's just pointless. It's like, I might as well just let him go past because there's not going to be any chance of me holding him back because as soon as he gets DRS, he's gone past me. get rid of the DRS.
Yeah, I think this is maybe something we need to have, like with the point system. I think we need to have a little in-depth discussion about it a bit more, rather than you doing a Dan and tin hat theory and you'll take DRS away. Just like, yeah, right, next race, no DRS.
Yeah. Are you saying like whoever is last in points has DRS for the whole race?
No, mate, I'm just saying, get rid of DRS completely. Just completely get rid of it.
Yeah. You definitely
Bin it off. It doesn't work. It works for one team. Everyone else is stuck in DRS trains. Make that just. The problem is, if you were to say, let's slow down the cars. Next regulation change, let's slow the cars down. Let's actually, rather than going, oh, well, we think if we do this little change here, it will make the cars 0.2 a lap slower. No, slow them down by like 2 seconds a lap, 3 seconds a lap. Make them slower, because I tell you what, the slower series always follow better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're going to change the regulations at all to try and make this gap closer, you've just got to slow everyone down, dramatically slow them down, take a load of downforce off the cars.
That sounds great, and it would be great. It'd be great to have the mechanical grip of the '80s. It'd be great to have the the wheel-to-wheel racing that we expect. But F1, especially Liberty Media, it's the show. They want faster cars. They're gonna get bigger cars, more space for sponsors. It kind of just goes to that, and it's kind of a bummer why these certain regulation changes don't happen. And one of those reasons why.
Do you want faster cars for a better show, or do you want better action on track for a better show? What's actually a better show?
Oh, I definitely want better show. Better show. I don't.
But what creates the better show? Is it faster cars
speed
or on track action? If you're having one or the other, what creates a better show?
On track action. Any day on track action is gonna do it, and that's why Indy is attracting more fans, because they almost can guarantee that action.
Yeah, but you've also got the thing with Indy, it being a spec series. Formula 2, Formula 3, it's a spec series. Formula 1's not a spec series, but if you do slow the cars down, everyone's still working to the same rules. Someone's always going to be faster, but actually make this effort to really slow the cars down. Make it so a lap at Spa is 30 seconds longer, and use that as your base point.
Yeah. They're great ideas, but at the same time, they do have a shade of, and I hate that I'm going to say this, but punishing Red Bull a little bit. Yes, they did come out with the best car in this generation. We also have to, the other manufacturers have to step up. Mercedes, they brought back Allison back to their team to help with their designing and their car, and hopefully we see an upgrade coming up in Imola where they're claiming a second, but it's more of like a quarter of a second. Ferrari had Binotto, which is a great technical mind, just couldn't put it together as a team. I think the teams just have to step up. I think Horner even said it, that they're so far ahead, and he's kind of shocked to see Ferrari and Mercedes haven't caught up. And it's right. It is a bit shocking. It's a bit sad that those top two teams are so far back from Red Bull, and especially Ferrari has a ton of money coming out of their nose, out of their nostrils, and they still can't design a decent car. But we'll see. We'll see. I just don't. I wish that we just had tighter racing, and I just don't really think we should. I wouldn't want to see Red Bull penalized in a way, even though they should be penalized for other things. But that's another story.
What I'm saying there is not actually try and penalise Red Bull. Like, if you were to get rid of DRS, I get that is penalising Red Bull because they're the ones who are using it best at the moment. I'm just saying future generation of cars, say 2025, you do it so, because 2026 is a new engine formula, but if you say 2025, we're going to really slow these cars down because we've got to improve the show. It's not so much an attack on Red Bull because everyone else is going to have to figure this out. Everyone else is going to have to put their minds to it. And I think if you're going to directly change a regulation to affect Red Bull, I don't think that's the way to do it. I don't think slowing everyone down is going to do it. I still think you'll have Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes at the front. You're going to great, better on-track action because cars can follow each other better. So, yeah, slow the cars down, give them push to pass, get rid of DRS. That's my solution for Formula One.
I'm very confused. But how is slowing the cars down and then giving them push to pass going to be any different than the cars going fast now, but then push to pass?
I'm saying I want push to pass either way. I'd happily have push to pass if you put it in tomorrow.
I don't agree with slowing them down though, because
that's because you weren't listening to what Danny and I were saying when you walked out the room.
Right, but you're going to slow everybody down the same percentage. You're still going to have the cars that are faster at the front, except it's going to waste an extra 40 minutes of my life watching the cars go around the track.
Okay, Dan, take Formula One. You're watching, even say you're watching the midfield of what you saw this last race, where they're all stuck in a DRS train and they're all following, but they can't get close enough, even with a DRS, to pass because they're all going so fast through these high-speed corners. Say you're watching that at Silverstone, okay? Now imagine touring cars at Silverstone. You've got 3 different manufacturers. They're different cars. They're not the same. It's not a spec series, but they can follow closer because the cars are slower. That's why it's better in Formula 2 and better in Formula 3 as well, because even though it's a spec series, the cars are also slower.
Okay, I'm prepared to give some thought to your slow the cars down theory then, I guess, for a second.
I feel like we're going to have to save it for a summer break or another lull in the podcast where we get a big gap or another crap race to really come back and revisit this.
It's fine. We'll save it for like 3 months when Danny comes back again. We'll do we'll do slow the car down podcast.
Either way, I'm still saying push to pass. Give them push to pass and get rid of DRS. I think that's your first solution to this.
I'm on board with push to pass. Push to pass is like, that's a top-notch idea.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be something sensible and doesn't have to be anything ludicrous like my half of the race you only use DRS idea.
With DRS, I honestly feel like it's an idea that's been tried and exhausted. We've always had DRS trains, and now I'm just saying you can shove your DRS up your ass. It's title for the podcast. You can shove your DRS up your push to pass.
So, you guys want to talk about Mercedes upgrades at Imola?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah, bro. They've got to do something. they literally can't get any shitter, can they? Got to upgrade something.
I mean, my fantasy season is relying on George Russell being good with these upgrades.
Yeah. They're calling a second? Probably not. I think Hamilton's more realistic. Russell's more realistic, saying that they're not gonna, overnight be all up at the front, but should provide better racing.
Anything could provide better racing than what we're dealing with right now. So I'm just looking forward to actually having side pods.
Oh, can we talk about McLaren? Or can we not talk about McLaren?
It's easy to not talk about McLaren because you don't ever see them anymore because they're that far behind.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing.
I can imagine it affects his attitude towards his long-term contract.
Right. Well, where is there to go?
Red Bull, when Perez pisses them off by fighting Max too hard.
Exactly that, bro. Exactly that. When Perez doesn't become when he becomes non-compliant, that seat is up for grabs the fucking day after, mate. 100%. Contract talks start.
Yeah, man, it's not going to be Danny Rick who gets it.
Maybe. I believe so.
Danny Rick was there for the promo video, like for Australia. That's it.
I mean, it's there. It's like, hey, look, we've given Danny Rick another chance by making him a test and reserve driver, just to try and make us look like not complete arseholes who cheat at every opportunity.
That is literally it. It's like, oh look, we're the nice guy. We're not villains. Still a villain, mate. 100%. You and that 94-year-old psycho, fucking both of you.
Dr. Evil wasn't a nice man for giving Mini-Me a job. That's all I'm going to say.
Are we calling Helmut Marko Dr. Evil?
Yes, he's Dr. Evil and Christian Horner is his Mini-Me.
That's the name of the podcast, bro. That one.
Oh.
No, he hasn't been that bad.
No. He's 80. He was 80 this weekend, wasn't he? Dr. Helmet.
Oh, was he? Was
I
he?
think yeah, 80 years old.
He's not doing too bad.
He's not doing too bad. No, he's still destroying dreams. So he's as good as that as he ever was.
He's probably surviving like through the blood of rookie drivers. That's what keeps him young.
That's it. He just helmet's getting a bit old. Let's go sacrifice another junior driver.
Yeah, his birthday was last week, the 27th of April. So what young driver did he?
Which young driver did he sacrifice this time to give himself a chance? I mean, there was no Formula 2 this week, so I guess we'll find out next time out in Imola.
Yeah, that's right, because Imola has F2 and F3, so they're plenty to snack on.
Do they have F1 Academy as well, or not?
No, that's joining next season into support. It's racing its own series this season and its own tracks to get it sort of into the swing of things, and then it's going to come around and be the support series. Yeah, Formula 2 and Formula 3 at Imola. So when we're looking at, and there's like, hang on, where's Dennis Hauger? We know that he's been sacrificed to keep Helmut Marko going. That's what's.
It's literally going to be a just who isn't here kind of deal. Like whose soul did he sacrifice? Oh shit! Who from the Red Bull Junior team didn't make it?
It's going to be like a Murder on the Orient Express style thing, isn't it? It's like which driver's gone missing? Who's and which other driver is committing the sacrifices to keep Marko alive? Oh dear! If he pops his clogs in the time of this podcast going out, we're going to sound like absolute arseholes.
You did. I don't know if you heard, but he was trying to take credit for Mercedes signing Hamilton as well. He entered that realm. He had mentioned in an interview that he had spoken with Niki Lauda, before Singapore in 2012, and he had mentioned that you need to sign Hamilton. He's probably the best driver out there left. The reason he did it was so Hamilton wouldn't re-sign with McLaren and be a direct threat to Red Bull at the time. So
how'd that work out for them?
Yeah, right. They had to deal with Lewis blowing their back out 6 times.
I think we'll wrap it up, boys. So just before we finish, looking ahead to Imola, Danny, who's your winner? Is it Verstappen, Perez, or someone else?
I'm Team Perez this year. So it'll be Perez, Max, and Lewis. I'll always have Lewis as the third spot, even though it'll probably be Alonso. But yeah.
It's definitely just going to be Alonso, isn't it? Like he's definitely going to be on that. I don't think the podium's changing until somebody can do anything. It's going to be a 1, 2, 3, just consistently, unless there's a problem.
Now, an Alonso win would be insane. So we got to admit that an Alonso win at Imola would be insane. It would have been 18 years since he last won it, right? 5.
It's literally 10 years ago this week.
It isn't off the cards, though, is it? Realistically, all you need is either the Red Bulls to tangle together or have an issue, or a part blow. And
wet race.
He's right there.
Wet race. No DRS.
Yeah, but they promised us a wet race or wet qualifying, and we got absolutely jack shit this week.
That's because WTF1, every time they put something on their Facebook feed about how it's going to rain for either the race or qualifying, it rains in between the race and qualifying, and we get a dull as shit race.
Facts.
It's the WTF1 jinx.
Stop writing about weather. Stick to vague F1 shit stories instead of weather, please.
No, they've got better since Matt left.
Matt and Tom left.
In my opinion, I've preferred their stuff they've been putting out since then. Anyway,
it was a shame. Well, I was gonna give it a shout out, but WTF1, they first came out, they had some really good content. They were, they were, and they were able to attract a lot of people. I don't know what happened. Then I guess they got tired of Lewis winning it all the time. And not much flair.
They used to be a really good meme page, and they became a news page. It's a bit like what happened with Lad Bible, and now it's just like clickbait. You're like, fuck off, Lad Bible.
Yeah, 2005, Alonso won in Imola. We had that great.
Oh, you're talking about the actual Imola race. I thought you were talking about Alonso's last win, which is literally 10 years ago this week.
Oh yeah, was it Spain? Barcelona, right? Last win.
It was Barcelona. Crazy to think what's happened in the last 10 years. I mean, Manchester City didn't exist last time Alonso really won a race. Oh no, it was just after Manchester City started to exist, wasn't it?
They still don't exist. The wheels have fell off the bus.
The fan base doesn't exist. I mean, the last time Alonso won a race, Manchester United were good.
Sadly, that is very true. I don't know what we were thinking yesterday.
Chelsea was very good.
Chelsea were good, yeah.
Chelsea were Champions League winner that year.
Everton were contenders for European football.
Neverton.
Neverton, yeah. Since Alonso's last win, 50 Red Bull Juniors have been sacrificed to keep Helmut Marko alive.
That is probably a very accurate number. 100%.
Brendan Hartley lived to tell the story.
Yeah, Brendan Hartley survived. He escaped. Oh, shout out to Brendan Hartley. Great bloke. Great, Brendan Hartley. Anyway, I think we will actually finally wrap it up. Thank you very much for listening. If you've enjoyed listening to this and you want to see more of what Formula One Fans UK does, check out the link in the bio of the podcast. As always, special thank you to our show sponsor, Apex Tracks, who, for all your 3D printed track work needs, they tick every box. Their website is apextracks.com. That's apextraxs.com. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. Cheerio, guys.
See you later, guys.
See ya. Peace.